This is Mr. Renfro. I'm going to do a short instructional video on reducing fractions. Okay, reducing fractions, making a fraction into its lowest term, simplifying. These all mean the same thing. What does it mean to simplify? What does it mean to simplify? Well, we're making a fraction into as few pieces as possible. Sometimes a fraction cannot be simplified. Sometimes it's in as few pieces as possible. But sometimes it's not. Now, for example, on this screen you see 2/4. Okay, it's in 4 pieces. The fraction is in 4 pieces. But 1/2 is an equal fraction and it's in fewer pieces. And you can see that half of the circle in both of these is represented. This is 2 out of 4 pieces. This is 1 out of 2 pieces. They're both the same size, yet one is in fewer pieces. So 2/4 can be simplified to 1/2. 1/2 is equal to 2/4. And so a lot of times in math, we want to reduce our fraction to as few pieces as possible. Now, there's a rule that we have to memorize or have to think about. Anytime a fraction, the top and bottom, the numerator and the denominator are even, then that fraction is not simplified, which means it can be made into a smaller number of pieces. Okay, right now we've got 20 total pieces, and 10 of them are shaded. Okay, 10 of them are shaded. So we've got to simplify this fraction. There's 2 ways to simplify. There's a hard way, which is to find the greatest common factor that the numerator 10 and the denominator 20 have in common. Okay, now the way you do that is you list the the factors, numbers that can be multiplied together to get 10, which is 1 times 10, and the other factors are 2 times 5. That's how we get factors of 10. Okay? Now, what are the factors of 20? Well, 1 times 20, 2 times 10, and there's one more, 4 times 5. Okay? Now, it says greatest common factor, which means they have to have that number in common. Well, what numbers do they have in common factors? Well, they have the factor of 1 in common. They have the factor of 2 in common. They have the factor of 5 in common. But the greatest common factor is 10. So when you find the greatest common factor, you divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. Well, 10 divided by 10 is 1, and 20 divided by 10 is 2. Okay, so this fraction, 10/20, can be reduced to 1/2. Right? That's the hard way to reduce a fraction. Now I'm going to show you an easier way to reduce a fraction. This is called a multiplication chart. Okay? Multiplication chart. Let me try to present this. All right. That's not the right button. Okay. Just 1 second. Present it, so did F5 on my computer. All right. Now, the fraction we had a minute ago was 10/20. All right. Now, everybody understands that columns go up and down. Rows go side to side. Okay. So we're going to use the columns to reduce fractions. We're going to use a multiplication chart to reduce fractions. So, where do we find the number 10 and the number 20 in the same column? Well, we find it several places. If we look in the 2's column, we find the number 10 and the number 20 in the same column. If we look in the 5's column, we find the number 10 and the number 20 in the same column. And if we look in the 10's column, we find the number 10 and 20 in the same column. Now, does everybody see we found that in 3 different columns? All right, now where are the 10 and the 20 closest together? Well, the 10 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 from, or the 20 is 5 from the 10 in this one. And then 1, 2 in this one. And then there is no distance between these two. So where is it closest? Well, obviously in the 10's column, they are the closest. Okay? In the 10's column, the number 10 and the number 20 are closest. Now, if you slide your fingers, if you put one finger on the 10 and one finger on the 20, and you slide both your fingers all the way to the blank, what does it reduce to? It reduces to 1/2. Now, if you had tried that in the other places, here and here, if you had reduced it, it would have been 2/4. Now, they're still even. Anytime you have even numbers, they're not reduced. Okay? Same thing for here. 10 and 20. If you reduce those, you get 5/10. 5/10 is not reduced. 5/10 is reduced to 1/2. Okay? So, we have to find the numbers in the same column. Again, what was our number? Our numerator was 10, our denominator was 20. We have to find them in the same column. Where do I find them in the same column? Find it in the 2 column, find it in the 5's column, and I found it in the 10's column. But I found it closest together in the 10's column. So I take my 2 fingers, put one finger on the 10 and one finger on the 20, and slide all the way to the left to the black. And it reduces to 1/2. So isn't that much easier to use that than finding the greatest common factor? All right, let's try another fraction. Let's try 24/36. Okay, we could find the greatest common factor and divide both those numbers by it, but that's going to take a while. Let's just find 24 and 36 in the same column. Okay, well, here's 24, here's 36, here's 24, here's 36. If we find it anywhere else, we got to look over the whole chart. Here's 24 and here's 36. Where are they closest? Well, in the 12's column. 12's column is where you find them the closest. So if you reduce it, if you move, put your finger on the 24 and your finger on the 36 and slide them all the way to the black, your answer reduces to 2/3. So 24/36 is reduced to 2/3. Okay? This is how we use our multiplication chart to simplify fractions.